I'm Eric Parker. This morning on CT22, Rob Hotaling. He's the candidate running for governor on the independent party ticket. We'll spend some time getting to know him and what he'd do for Connecticut if elected. Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro of the 3rd Congressional District is joining us here in Studio A. She's running for a 17th term in the U.S. House. We're also talking with 4th District Congressman Jim Himes. The Democrat is also running for re-election. He's seeking an 8th term in the district that serves much of the southwestern part of our state. We'll have these interviews for you on this, the final Sunday of October. CT22 starts right now.
From WFSB, this is CT22 with Eric Parker.
Good morning. It feels like we've been talking about it forever, but we are finally 9 days out from Election Day when voters will decide if Governor Ned Lamont will get a second term or if the state will get a new leader. On Thursday night, we spoke with Governor Lamont and Bob Stefanowski, the two major party candidates in that race. This morning, we're spending some time getting to know the third person on the ballot, Rob Hotaling of the Independent Party. Rob, thanks for being with us here on CT22.
Thanks for having me, Eric.
So let's just start with this. Who are you and why have you decided to run? I know you've never run for office before. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So I've had, I'd say, campaign experience in the past, but this is the first time I've actually run for a governor position. So just quickly on me, I am a 25-year resident of Connecticut. I have a beautiful wife, kids. I'm from banking and finance generally. I'm a senior vice president at a large regional bank right now, and I just think I have better ideas on how to move our state forward.
Let's just start with the elephant in the room. I know you've been asked this 9 probably million times over the last few weeks. The most generous of polls seems to put you around the 5% mark among likely voters. Why do you run a campaign that many say you have no chance of winning? How do you view it, and what do you tell voters who ask you that question?
Couple things to that, right? First of all, this is important for choice. So I'm a firm believer, and I would challenge both of my competitors and the wider public, naming an industry of less choice is better. More choice offers more outcomes, better outcomes. So that's one of the key things. We have better ideas. We also believe this election isn't about big bank accounts. It's about the best ideas, and we believe we have those. So we released an economic plan, an education plan, and then we've also released this past week an affordable housing plan that we think the voting public should really take a look at.
I want to talk to you in specific about some of your views on those issues, but I do want to ask you, you talked about having more choice at the August 23rd convention after a tie and then a tie-breaking vote. You were the nominated candidate from the party. Bob Stefanowski, the Republican, actually sued over that outcome, seeking to take you off the ballot. Does that speak to the importance of that, and does that make you feel emboldened in running this campaign, that it was so important, that ballot line, that it ended up in a lawsuit?
Yeah, I mean, it speaks to how important our candidacy is, really. When you think about it, he wouldn't have sued if we didn't have a serious, viable candidacy. We have better ideas, and we're really trying to eliminate that choice so folks don't hear the other options. So yeah, it was contentious. There were people cursing at me. And I really talked about at that moment in time, and I think a lot of people today still appreciate, I talked about civility and respect for the opposition. People are tired of the partisan politics, and they see a different direction for our state and our country.
Well, you do have some clearly identified stances on various issues. I know you just had an op-ed published in the Connecticut Post and several other newspapers about education funding changes you would propose. We only have 8 minutes here, so people could read that op-ed if they want more specifics, but give people an idea. What's your education plan?
Yeah, fundamentally right now, your education shouldn't be based on your zip code. It should be based on student metrics and outcomes. Student achievement is our biggest focus right now. So although we have a great school system, great teachers, great workforce, that's all attributed to a lot of the spending we have, we do also have the worst achievement gap in the nation. And we believe that part of the reason is that we need to focus and restructure the way our policies are applied for education cost sharing, the ECS formula. We believe it should be based on student-teacher ratios, which is the highest correlation to a successful outcome of a student. In some of our inner cities, we have 30, 40 kids to a class. At that point, the environment's degraded. We also believe that we need to take a look at increasing funding for early childhood education. It's unacceptable to have 76% of our students are literate, which means the rest are illiterate by the 3rd grade. We believe that number should be at 90%. We also believe that we should be increasing some other areas in terms of regionalization of delivery of services. so that we could remove some redundancies from the system and increase our teacher retention and attraction to the job.
So if that's a lot of the things you want to do with education, obviously there's costs involved there. One thing you've been outspoken about is supporting highway tolls. Explain why.
Yeah, well, I fundamentally, there's traffic that flows through our state. So from New York, Massachusetts, 40% of our traffic is from out of state. I'm a believer in pay-as-you-go. I didn't mention putting tolls everywhere across Connecticut. That's not the intent. The intent is how do we pay? The thing that folks need to understand is right now our special transportation fund is primarily funded through gas and diesel taxes. But as we push for electric vehicles, how will you pay for our roads? We have to do something now strategically. So I'm looking at what is reasonable. And I think a great idea, we believe a great idea would be to give potentially discounts or free pass to Connecticut residents. Our focus is really on that out-of-state traffic.
But speaking of vehicles, you think that the personal property tax on cars is something that has to go?
Yeah, there's a lot of states that demonstrated elimination of motor vehicle taxes is an improvement to cost of living and cost of doing business. And we believe that, again, if you restructure and move certain things around, where we go from an asset-based economy, which is you're essentially taxed on something you have or something you are, to a use-based economy where you are essentially taxing people on their use. It's a far more fair approach to living in our state.
Good catch of the earpiece. As one thing that you have been outspoken talking about as well is ranked choice voting. For people who aren't familiar with it, we've talked about it a little bit on this program. You pick your top choice, but then you also have 2 and 3 so that you can have some almost elimination rounds in voting, that if somebody doesn't get enough votes, you can look back at who got the most second place votes and such. I want to ask you about that because we've said that your polling numbers are low. I presume on Election Day you will vote for yourself, but if we had ranked choice voting, who would be your number 2?
Well, if we had ranked choice voting, well, first of all, let me say I'm a product of ranked choice voting. My competitor, Bob Stefanowski, won on ranked choice voting 4 years ago over Oz Griebel in the Independent Party. This time, I'm the recipient of the winning. Why? Because the second round, you have an instant runoff, and your second choice goes up if someone doesn't win by 50%. We're a firm believer that the spoiler concept is why people don't vote for their favorite candidate. They feel it's an anti-vote. I'm voting against Bob or against Ned. Ranked choice voting eliminates the spoiler concept. So, but for me, my second choice, you'll have to wait. But if we had ranked choice voting, I'd be the first to say who I'd vote for as my number 2.
Oh, very, very, very good. You'll wait to see when it's put in there, like a seasoned politician. I know Bob Stefanowski has said he'll put $10 million of his own dollars in. Governor Lamont put $15 million in last time. One article I had you put it loaning $43,000. So when you have these kind of financial disparities, obviously the fundraising is very different too. What do you say to voters about your campaign? Make a pitch here. We got about 30 seconds left. Make a pitch about why they should see you today and vote for you on Election Day.
Yeah, I've probably loaned now total close to $50,000. I'm not a multimillionaire. I can't sell stock and earn $54 million like Governor Lamont, or work for the Saudis like Mr. Stefanowski and earn $15 million a year. What I'm rich in are ideas and innovation. And again, I realize this is not about how big of a bank account it is. It's about being qualified and viable and moving our state forward. And if you look at, for Lamont, more of the same. You look at Mr. Stefanowski, you have to question his judgment right now. And I believe I'm the only one who could break the blue-red divide in terms of partisan politics and move the whole state forward.
All right, Rob Hotaling, the candidate for governor with the Independent Party of Connecticut. Thank you for being with us, and good luck on Election Day. We're turning from the race for governor to the race for Congress. Later in our program, Representative Jim Himes will join us. But up next, Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro. We'll be right back.